Alright, let's keep talking about manga. If you didn't watch part one for some reason, I'm just gonna go through like every manga in my follows list and then some other manga too, and I'm gonna talk about what I think of it, and then I'm going to award it somewhere between 0 and 3 stars, trying to uphold the ideals of the Michelin star rating system. And if you don't know what that means, I tried to explain in the last video, and I'll probably explain for each title that gets a star kind of like what I was thinking with that. Let's talk about another spin-off from Maid Dragon. It was actually one of my favorites in terms of the whole extended Maid Dragoniverse. Mostly because it's not so driven by fan service. Instead, it is much more driven by food, which I find very relatable. It's got a lot of kind of like office humor, working life humor, kind of the complexities of adulthood humor, all focalized through Elma, who is just such a funny character with her hyper competence, her hyper gluttony, and also her hyper ignorance. It also carries on some of the themes in the original Maid Dragon of Elma learning about workers' rights and generally becoming like a huge proponent of toppling the existing hierarchy in their organization and having more fair wage distribution and all sorts of other awesome leftist stuff. So even though it's not really a serious theme, I just like it whenever something like that becomes a factor, and I'm like, yeah, based. This is Akagi, the legendary Mahjong series, where one man played Mahjong for 20 years straight, or however long the series actually ran for, most of it focusing on a single game of Mahjong between Akagi and Wishizu. I love this series. I found it so compelling. I think in terms of just depicting the raw psychological action of Mahjong, in terms of exploring what's possible in the game, nothing else compares to this. Of course it is with the Mahjong variant, Wishizu Mahjong with the clear tiles, which is like not the same as normal Mahjong, but it's super interesting, and I think the character of Akagi is so well constructed, so fascinating. So this actually ended, but I've only read up to maybe around here, and I just couldn't bring myself to finish it because it held such a special place in my heart and had been so compelling for me for so many years that I just didn't have the heart to see it through. But I do want to finish it at some point, and I want to make videos about it, and I want to, as best I can, capture what makes this series so good at what it does, and why I think these sort of psychological dives into what really emerges when people are pushed to these limits is so compelling and so necessary of a story to be told. With or without the context of Mahjong, I think this can be such just a powerful scope of humanity to look at, just struggling to triumph in this one game, this one microcosm. Amazing. This gets a star for sure. If you're a fan of Mahjong series, you've probably already read it, but I recommend it to anyone that's just sort of interesting in this almost brutally deep examination of two people's minds. You'll probably learn how to play Mahjong as you read it too, which will be fun. This was a interesting magic series. It kind of is almost in line with Witch Hat Atelier in that it's like very enchanted and very much around the world building of what magic is and how does it interact with the society. Also very much about like the apprenticeship of a witch and how they learn and grow up about magic. It's a little goofier than Witch Hat Atelier, and it certainly doesn't reach the same pinnacles of artistry. A little more fan servicey too. But I don't know, it's like nice, it's interesting. I hope it continues to get scanlated. Really what this video is teaching me is like, man, so many scanlation projects get dropped, and then and I'm proud of myself that my immediate next thought is I have to practice Japanese. And I have to pick up the torch myself. And then, of course, the next disappointing thought is, oh my god, I do not have the free time to do that. But yeah, it's a neat read. I don't know if this artist has done anything else. Not really. But it's cool. This is another spin-off from Saki, a continuation of the first spin-off of a Saki that looked at the path through the tournament of another school that now, in the current Saki arc, is playing against the main school. So I was like, okay, it makes sense for the spin-off to end because at this point the spin-off and the main series would be depicting the same events. But somewhat surprisingly, they continued it, and now there's just two different series retelling the same game of Mahjong from different perspectives, which is actually kind of cool. You get to see another, like, psychology, you get to see the emotional reactions of different characters. The feeling of who is the protagonist, of course, is profoundly different, such that something that elicits a ton of excitement and catharsis and triumph in the main series is now depicted as a source of terror and despair and something to overcome in the spin-off series. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of strange that it exists, but you know what? I'm totally down. And there's been a lot of moments in the main series that I think are just awesome in this like final game that I was super excited to just see again in a new context. This is a really cool series. I think it's been getting updates semi-recently. Yeah, I think I've only read these first 4 chapters, so I should check this out. It's largely wordless. It takes place in this strange semi-post-apocalyptic world. Has like a very rich, beautiful art style. You just see this cat girl exploring this very empty world by following railway tracks. And it's kind of up to your own interpretation of what is she seeing, what do these artifacts mean. I don't know, it's really nice, really lovely, very peaceful aesthetic. I really hope that this group starts working on scanlations for it again. It's really not that much dialogue, dude. You don't have to translate that much. Yeah, cool stuff. Hidamari's Sketch, the long running slice of life series by Aoki Ume, has been a snail's pace lately in terms of new chapters coming out, but each one is a treat. I love this series so much. The anime adaptation is my favorite slice of life anime, and probably my second favorite anime at all, period. I don't know, just something with the character designs, the setting, and this art school is really lovely, just the super languid pace of it, and yet there's still progress, there's still major changes in the characters' lives. I love it. I just love it. I think the Shaft adaptation adds a lot in just how experimental it was with the presentation and stuff. Here it's a pretty straightforward 4-koma, but it has such a warmth to it, such a grounding, that I think few other series match, that you really feel healed by it, just in terms of how relaxing it is, the good-natured humor, just everything. This is a cool Kyoshinsha series that sits at around 10% of overall perversion. Very, very little fan service, if any. I was reading, I think I've read maybe the first couple volumes of this. It's finished now and fully scanlated, which is fantastic. I'll have to read it at some point. The premise is very simple. She's a super rich heiress. He's kind of a grubby weirdo, but they forge a very unlikely friendship. Lots of fun, very cute, very wholesome, very heartwarming, nice balance of progress and romance with just general slice of life. Everything that I praise all these series for. But it's neat seeing cool Kyoshinsha keep it packed away and do one for everybody this time, and not just the perverts. This is a very fun series about this kind of normal office lady who somehow finds herself roped into the world of super high stakes mafia-driven assassination. That because she's so inconspicuous, so basic, so bland, that she has the most impressive, undetectable killing intent, that she's able to wipe out targets without people even realizing she was there. And for quite a while, it's just kind of this gag-based assassination a chapter series, where we see her bumbling mishaps and her bizarre habit of making weird animal puns to describe her flustered emotions. But then an actual plot line starts to emerge that's actually quite dramatic and quite compelling. So I'm finding myself more and more impressed with the series. The art style is great. You may know this guy from, what's it called? Tsurazure Children. This is quite a famous series. I haven't actually read it. Is it on my plan to read list? Yeah, okay, good. But yeah, really, really fun. Check it out. This is a Yuri series that I think hasn't... Oh, it's actually been finished now. Okay, I'm going to switch this to plan to read, because I think maybe I read like one chapter that had been scanlated, and then I didn't notice it had been finished, or like it got finished during my manga hiatus or whatever. But it's, I don't know, it seems cool. It seems intense. Cooking Papa. This is like an all-time classic. This very, very ambitious scanlation project, because this has like close to 1,000 chapters or something crazy. It just ran forever and ever and ever. It's really nice. As implied, he is the cooking papa, a salary man with a family who comes home every night and whips up a delicious meal. Wide range of cuisine, from Japanese classics to Western food the world over. Really nice depiction of the recipes. Again, very approachable. Really encourages you to try making it yourself. The food looks delicious. Has this super classic art style that I like. And then just the barest of like sitcom premises to motivate each meal. Oh, the boss is coming over. We gotta make him something special. It's real cold outside. Let's make some hot pot. It's great. It's great. I love it. I hope people continue working on scanlating it. This was a series that is remarkably unremarkable from what I've read. It got an anime a bit ago too. And it's just about baseball, about pitching specifically. It has some interesting discussion of how pitches work and this special magic throw that just baffles the main character and compels her to learn how baseball works. What's notable about it, to me, is the fact that it was released by this person, Mountain Pukuichi, who also released these Yuri collections, which were first like doujinshi. And these are weird. These are like very weird. Just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't even feel like fetishy, and it's certainly not fan servicey. But it's like, just the way these girls talk about their love and their relationships is like so alien at times. Like, for example, there's one where like these two girls in a relationship are talking to each other on the phone, and they start talking about, oh my god, I just like vividly pictured, like, what if you were dead? Like, oh god, now I just vividly pictured your dead body, and they start like crying to each other over the phone. Or there's one where like they're talking about how, oh, I wish I could reach inside and feel what your guts are like. And again, it's like, oh, that sounds like a fetish or something, but it's like presented in this way that's like not fetishy, really. It's just very matter of fact, and it's not like meant to be funny either. It's not really dramatic. It's just very, very strange. They also released a fairly infamous Lucky Star Joujinshi, which is all about Kagami being really lonely in college and trying to reconnect with Konata and learning that she's kind of gone off the rails too, and she's like cutting herself. And it's just like really like weird and distressing and just so difficult to ascertain, like, what is the purpose of it? Like, is this even sexual? Is this some deep inner anxiety that you're kind of like drawing your way out of? I think it's probably that, honestly. But it's just so weird to me that they were kind of infamous for all this stuff, and then they released this baseball series that, you know, in the 5 chapters I read at least, and the bit of the anime I watched, is just like completely straight down the middle, no curveball at all. Just normal girls playing baseball series. This was a silly slice of life about girls that want to become live streamers. It's like a little weird in that, you know, a big part of it is like they're streaming, and then you see like the chat depicted, and in the series it's like not really clear like who's watching this. But then you think, oh, in real life, it would probably be like perverts, and that's distressing. But I don't know. The characters are kind of fun. They're all sort of socially awkward in their own ways, and the way they kind of build new personas for themselves in streaming and push their boundaries and stuff, like that's really cool. And I wish we did live in a nicer, kinder world where people could experiment with broadcasting themselves and building communities and making audiences without perverts. But we don't. And the series is kind of stained, I think, by that association. But I don't know. It's still fine. It's still pleasant. I remember back in the era so long ago when I was making manga videos for basically every series I was reading and putting out like 10 videos a day, aka when I was in NEET, we would read a chapter of this and then I would try to highlight some interesting aspect of live streaming that I had heard about recently. And we'd go check out a certain live streaming site or something, or a community, and see what it was like. Because even just, I don't know, that probably would have been like 3 years ago. No, longer than that. 4 years ago? 5 years ago? The world of live streaming was so much different. Now it's like so much more homogenized and it's being collected on Twitch. But at the time there was so much more stuff, like Facebook Live was a huge thing. Facebook Live even had this like globe view where you could just click on streams from countries around the world and see what they were streaming there. That was just so fascinating. I don't know. I like these sort of series that take something new and something very culturally explosive and kind of explore it through such a familiar genre. So I think this series has a lot of merit, even though it's like not really that interesting. This is 100 Scenes of Girls' Love, and it is indeed 100 Scenes of Girls' Love. It's very pleasant, very beautiful. It's full color. Just tiny little vignettes of kind of archetypical characters, and they're both girls, and they love each other, and that's great. Okay. This is a very silly 4-coma comedy series. I love how flat and simplistic the art is. I love how stupid all the characters are. The title translates to Natural Born Idiot. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to love. Check it out if you like watching idiots. Alright. Where do we even start with this? This is, of course, an all-time legendary series. Probably one of the highest rating series right now. Of course, it gets a lot of attention and praise lately because of the very unfortunate, untimely passing away of the mangaka. People taking a second to step back and be like, yeah, this was crazy. This was a one-of-a-kind masterpiece in terms of the scope, the ambition, the art style, the themes, so dark yet so inspirational, so tied to just these brutal limits of the human psyche, but explored in such a fantastical setting. Some moments in the series, like Guts' duel with Griffith, or the eclipse, or for better or worse, getting off that damn boat, are just going to be in readers' minds forever and ever. I don't know. It's sometimes a little hard to recommend this series because it is so brutally violent and, you know, sexual violence and all sorts of stuff that will make people uncomfortable. It's also very, very long with very dense world building and long kind of like side adventures. To be clear, I haven't read anything since the new artist took over, and I haven't actually read the last Miura chapter. I want to make videos about it, and I just haven't gotten the chance. And I don't know, I think it's sort of like with Akagi, where I'm like a little hesitant to actually see the end of it, just because it's so special. For me, what was always interesting was most interesting was like the political stuff, the way the world building took such a brutal fantasy world, so inhospitable, so dangerous, and yet still presented such a scathingly clear portrait of what would the powerful be doing, what would the aristocracy be doing, and how Griffith, this such a complicated character, so detestable, yet so beautiful and brave, maneuvers that and manipulates that like he's friggin' Swan and Proust. I don't know, man. It's a really special series. It's not like my personal favorite because, like, you know, this isn't the aesthetic that really does stuff for me. This isn't, you know, I'm not constantly seeking out dark fantasy. I'm not trying to find the most violent things out there. And yet, I still can only stand in awe of what Miura accomplished with this. I don't know where the hell it's going to go from here. I even if Miura was alive, I wouldn't have a clue. It feels like their ambitions for what the series should cover is still going to extend out to 100 volumes as Miura had dreamed. I don't know. It's wild. Check it out. I think this is a solid 2 stars. It's an absolute classic of the genre for a reason. If you feel like, oh, I can't stomach the violence, I can't stomach the rape, that's fair, but it's worth trying to. It's worth trying to see if you can meddle it. And sometimes it's a lot of fun too. There's some funny parts. Okay. This is a very silly series. I don't know how many times I've started talking about a series by saying that. Slice of life series about the subordinate of the Demon King, who's booted into the human realm along with some of their former compatriots and enemies when the demon realm is destroyed. In the human realm, she is just a lowly, poor person who has to work as a waitress at a bar as she goes around searching for the magic gems that will hopefully restore the demon realm. It's nice because, of course, she starts off hating everything and feeling superior, but as many series do, her eyes are opened and there's a very wholesome discovery of the joys of just the normal human life. Very funny, very cute, really expressive art style. There's a lot to like here. There's an anime like a year or so ago, which was okay. But the manga is great. Definitely check out the manga. This is one I started reading pretty recently. It's like a daily series that only puts out a page or two. At first I thought it was going to be kind of like a gimmick, kind of like this croc will die in 100 days. Where, you know, this girl will stop being tsundere in 100 days. But now it has just progressed to your typical post-confession rom-com where the male lead and the female lead are doing all sorts of flirty things together. It's pretty fan servicey, but the art style is impressive. Lots of cute moments. I don't know, it's fine. Alright, here we go. This is, sounds good. The anime adaptation of this is my favorite anime of all time, and I would still say in many respects the manga is better. Yeah. I think Umi no Chika is just one of the most inventive and expressive manga artists of all time in terms of how she does paneling and expression and tone building. The world of the series is so rich and heartwarming. Like, it's not idealized. A lot of these characters have suffered a lot, but it just is so, like, determined to bring out the joy and beauty that exists all around us in food, in relationships, in competition, in self-actualization, in love. It's amazing. It's just amazing. I don't care if you don't like romance series. I don't care if you don't like these kind of slice of life, let's eat food series. I don't care if you hear, yeah, there's like a bullying arc that's going to make you cry on every single page and you're like, eh. No, read it. You're going to cry on every single page. I think the treatment of shogi, even though this isn't really a super deep, like an Akagi or a Blue Lock or something where it's like let's scrape out the minutia of every part of this competitive game. And instead, shogi is just sort of part of the character's life, which we see holistically. Even then, the discussions of competition and competitive motivation and kind of like what it means to be good at something, I think is like the best I've seen in any series ever. Or at least way up there with like ping pong or something, and just that really holistic human view of competition. And shogi is just such a cool game. Man, I just can't praise this enough. And it's like, this is where I hit maybe one of the limitations of the star system, because like this is like a perfect series to me. Like it just has everything I would want in a series if I was making a list. Focus on some competitive strategic game, a character who's kind of shy and wholesome, but also stoic and nerdy, side characters that are this family, but something bad happens, big focus on food, big focus on just day-to-day life, like a big expanded list of characters with a really kind of complex power level dynamics about how successful in life they are and how good at shogi they are and stuff. Like I could go on for days of very particular stuff I like in storytelling that this series has all of at once. But so it's kind of like, can I really say, oh, this is 3 stars? I would recommend this to anyone ever. This is just an important piece of narrative fiction that you owe it to yourself to read if you appreciate art? Or is it just like, yeah, this is something personally I really like because it's like personally the perfect story for me? But no, it is actually the first one. It is actually just an extremely beautiful piece of art that everyone who is invested in media and in having human experiences through consuming media and just kind of plumbing the depths of their own inner psychology owes it to themselves to check out. So this one is a 3 stars for sure. Yeah, I love it so much. I'm so happy. This group has been dutifully scanlating it this whole time. I'm really, really excited for it to get officially localized into English. I want to buy all the volumes because I just want to read it over and over again and bawl my eyes out with a smile on my face. Beautiful. All right, next let's kill slime for 300 years. This one's fun. I don't know. It's very laid back isekai. I really don't like isekai. We're gonna cover like 3 isekai total on this entire list. I just find them like they focus on all the parts I don't like of fantasy, and they focus on all the parts I don't like about like let's play a video game. Gosh. You don't have to read a video game, you just play a video game. Anyways, this one is fun because like many isekai series, it's a fantasy, a power fantasy where your main character is absurdly godlike and untouchable. But instead of it playing out like the normal isekai would after establishing that huge power trip where they just go around crushing stuff, here it's just like a slice of life where the fact that she's omnipotent only comes up occasionally. Really nice kind of like family building stuff as she introduces more characters into her home. A lot of really laid back slice of life stuff, but still character development. Everybody's got little problems they need to solve. The world building is very simplistic. But I like that it exists, and it makes me excited to see, different countries they hint at and different rulers and other notable figures. It just has this sort of peacefulness that comes from the fact that they've like automatically precluded any sort of meaningful conflicts, and now they can kind of explore these bolder ideas while not ever once introducing a hint of tension or fear. It's good. Here we got another banger. This is actually finished, but I haven't finished reading it. I'm like around here, maybe. I don't know. I gotta finish it. It's crazy. The latest series, or the latest big series, I think he's done some smaller projects since then, by Inio Asano, one of my favorite mangaka. has all the stuff I really like him for. The mixture of really high concept stuff, oh my gosh, the aliens are invading, and then the very down-to-earth slice of life minutia of the aliens are invading, but I still have an unreciprocated crush on my teacher. I love the characterization. Everybody's just like a huge degen. They're all addicted to FPSs and stuff. They get thrown into these way grander plots so haphazardly. There's all sorts of twists, all sorts of really complex political plots. Sometimes it gets hard to follow, but then there's these really satisfying moments where they come together, the different plot lines, and you really start to realize the significance and ramification of everything. I have very little bad to say about this one. The art style is fantastic, playing to Inio Asano's strengths of like photo editing combined with really expressive character drawing. This one's great. I think this one gets a star for sure. I think if anything kind of sci-fi interests you, or if anything slice of life interests you, you should check it out. It'll kind of teach you about the other side. The tone is this really weird, it seems sort of satirical, but it's hard to kind of place it. Mix of like despair and nihilism, but then just sort of this endless, irreverent march towards social media, towards distraction, towards addiction and habits. A whole lot to like here. Really check it out. I gotta finish reading it. Hopefully I can make some videos on the last few chapters. Who knows when? Oh, this is a really nice series. I really hope more of it gets scanlated. I think it's getting localized now. Oh, official English. Yeah, how much has been... Oh, volume 3. Oh, snap. Oh, man, I gotta read this. Really nice series. This super ikemen type man. His wife, unfortunately, passes away. And in order to head off loneliness, he adopts this adorable, goofy, poofy little cat. And then it's just sort of the fun of his very dignified life, while still expressing all of the joy of discovering the many quirky pleasures of being a cat owner. If you have a cat, this is one of the best cat type series. If you like a handsome older man who's good at everything, it's one of the best series for that too. This is a very fun sitcom, rom-com type thing. I feel like it's ending soon. Oh, it is completed. What? Wow, this went on for a long time. And yet, I think they always had a really good balance of progress and irreverence, which is hard to pull off for a rom-com this long. The characterization, I think, is great. This super elite school where everybody is the son or daughter of somebody leads to some really extreme character traits that I like. I think just kind of the world of the school they built up with all of its rituals and clubs and societies was really fun. And then, the big emotional progress type arcs, really emotionally hard-hitting. I found myself super compelled by these characters. You probably know the series from the anime and from kind of the gimmick of the first few arcs and first few volumes where they're just trying to trick each other into confessing. And it's like, that stuff is fun, but it is quite samey, and it's sort of one joke, and a lot of people were like, yeah, I didn't really get into it. I encourage you to press forward, because once you kind of get past that initial gimmick, and it just kind of becomes more about the lives of these characters and how they interact with the school and all the politics of the school council, and just their really long, really profound, really meaningful arcs of self-discovery and actualization that just, happen to have romantic elements but aren't always even the focus. It is something really special. I think this is one of the best rom-coms I've read. I'm going to give it a star. I think it's great. The art style is great. The characters are super expressive. Tons of funny faces. It's good, dude. It's so good. Bocchi. This is another one that's ended, but I haven't read the end because I don't know, man. I've become weak. It's like when I know that I'm gonna read the last chapter of a series, I just tense up now. I don't have the grit for it. I don't have the willingness to see a series out the door. But this was a nice one. In the rapidly growing genre of I want to make a lot of friends, where our very shy or otherwise socially pained protagonist develops an ever-growing circle of friends through usually very adorable, endearing, and sometimes somewhat relatable means. This one I think strikes a really good balance, where Bocchi certainly is shy, but not unrealistically so, and she really does get better and more courageous and brave, which I really like. The extended cast of friends is really fun. A great job of taking kind of like one-note characters that just kind of seem like they're there for a single gag, and then expanding them out in ways that feel really authentic to that character and really increase the sort of range of situations and emotional landscapes that character can have. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Check it out. I think I'll give this a star. You know, yeah, thinking back to all the memories I have with the series, it's really, really nice. It's pretty simple. It's not going to blow your mind. But I think if you are in the mood for a wholesome, cute manga, there's not many that I would put before this. Yuri-kan, this is a anthology series about girls getting married. I don't know much to say about it. That kind of says it all right there. It's like the 100 scenes of girls' love. It's just a bunch of scenes of marriages. Here's another Yuri series. I'm not caught up on this. This one is based on a light novel series, and it's had multiple manga adaptations and then an anime adaptation. I'm like right on the edge with the series, where it's like, I think aspects of it are so good. Like kind of the overall characterization of these girls and their weird sort of detachment from life, their willingness to kind of dive into this friendship and this relationship because it seems like they're so dissatisfied with something else. I think that's really, really, really compelling. And I think they're just like very well balanced characters. They don't seem at all unreasonable, such that when they have conflicts, when they try to get closer, that's very compelling and well done. What I don't like so much is like there's just a lot of elements that feel really unnecessary, that are kind of like peppered in very awkwardly, and I think a lot of the conflicts feel very forced. That's like, well, we need something dramatic to happen, so they're gonna have a fight about this, like some dumb misunderstanding. That it just kind of seems like it cheapens that like really compelling core characterization. So I don't know, man. It's hard to wholeheartedly recommend it one way or another. Like I think sometimes it taps into a very powerful feeling, but it's kind of like fighting itself to do so. That's okay. This is a slice of life fishing series. It's quite cute. It's a little more emotionally compelling than a lot of these series are. The premise is these girls meet because each of them has had a parent pass away, and then their surviving parents have married each other. So there's sometimes like really painful, sentimental moments, a deep sense of like loss, of trying to kind of like put together the pieces. And then these girls finding comfort in connecting over fishing and learning to fish and learning to cook what they fish. I think the depiction of fishing is really good, very thorough, very realistic. Showing how to prepare the fish, I really enjoy. Not really shying away from some aspects of that might seem more gruesome, of actually like cleaning the fish, and then showing a lot of like love and appreciation and eating the fish afterwards and kind of taking in that whole process and how they've bonded over fishing and cooking together. I really hope it continues to be scanlated. There was an anime that came out for it that I haven't watched, but maybe I'll have to because I assume it'll go further than what's been scanlated. But yeah, good stuff. This is a good one. This is one of my favorite Yuri series, or rather, it's the follow-up to the original Kaze-san series. I haven't read much of this yet. Again, I was kind of on this like overall hiatus for Yuri series that lasted longer than my manga hiatus in general. It's just, I don't know, like it makes me feel very emotionally vulnerable reading these series. Just because, let's not even get into just because. But I think the art style of this one is phenomenal. Hiromi Sensei, Takashima Hiromi Sensei, who I met in person once, I think just does an amazing job of paneling and character expression, highlights, sort of like Umina Sensei in that way, but even fluffier. Nobody's fluffier than her. The actual plotline of the series isn't super interesting or super compelling, and sometimes, like I complain about with a lot of Yuri series, the conflict seems a little bit contrived. But there are some really, really, really beautiful moments here. Really, really beautifully done moments. And I think it strikes a really mature and exciting balance in their relationship, that it's like super fluffy, but it's not unrealistic. These feel like human beings first and foremost. Yeah, I'm really, man, I feel bad that I'm so far behind on this now. This really is one of my favorite Yuri series. I think for anyone who likes Yuri, check it out. Anyone who just wants this sort of romance series, check it out. Like anyone who wants to see something that I think is at the forefront of manga as a medium in terms of paneling, in terms of what you can do with a page to express a feeling, to express characterization. It's so good, dude. This one's 2 stars. Yeah, this one's 2 stars. It's gotta be. It's so good. And this goes for the sequel series and the prequel series. So when we get to the prequel series, it'll be 2 stars as well, I guess. Okay. Very good, very good. This one I haven't read. Plan to read. I think, again, I read like 1 chapter, and then during the hiatus, the rest of it got scanned later and I haven't read it yet. But I don't know, it's a Yuri series. It's probably good. Ooh, I love this one. I love this one so much. So, the scanlation for this has been very lacking, but the official localization has been proceeding, and I've been reading those. It is about an old woman who gets into BL. And that's great. I think it's a very tender portrait of this woman's elderly life, about her strange, fast friendship with the woman who works at the bookstore. I think the characters are super well observed in that they don't feel at all exaggerated. They're not made to be any more endearing than they are, and yet they're just so endearing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I could praise this one for a long time. I think the art style is great. It's like very minimalistic and sparse, which gives it this really kind of dreamy, languid feeling. I think the exploration of why BL is so compelling is so cool. Like the way they talk about the character archetypes and stuff, and kind of her own perspective as someone who has gone through like a whole marriage. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's pretty special. I really hope more people check this one out. I'll give it a star. This is a very funny one. I almost said silly, but I'm trying to say different things. I gotta get caught up on this one, apparently. Yeah, it's this gal that's being haunted. And at first her friend is like, oh no, she doesn't know she's being haunted. But she does. She's just chill with the ghost. So, you know, it's kind of just the same joke. She goes out and does something ghoulish. The ghost is there and it feels really inappropriate. But in the end, the ghost just kind of wants to have a good time too. I think the art style is really fun. The contrast between the spookiness of the ghost and the kind of bright, shiny world of gals is very well done. I don't know. It's nice. This is a very silly series about a man who loves Yuri and is going around shipping all of his girl classmates together, which usually leads to disaster, to grained misunderstandings. I really like how degenerate the character is and how authentic their discussion of his tastes are. There's a lot of discussion of real Yuri series, which is fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's very dumb. A good one. This one is about a girl who's very cold and standoffish, but eventually she warms up. What more do you want? Nice. This is a collection of short comics by Umino Sensei. Some of them I think are phenomenal and made me weep openly. Some of them are just okay. There's like a wide range of demographic and genre and interest depicted here, which is really impressive in and of itself. It's all good. Of course, nothing is going to reach the height of like her main series, you know, Honey and Clover or Sangatsu, but they're good for what they are. Check them out. This is a silly gender swap series. I don't know, not too notable, but for some reason I found myself compelled to read every gender swap series I could. This is a silly ecchi series about the studious class president type who decides, hey, if I'm going to be dismissive about this ecchi stuff, if I'm going to say it's bad, then I really need to understand what it is. It's very surprisingly explicit in that they talk straight up about porn and they like meet a porn star and stuff. I'm gonna say it's probably like a little underrated. It's one of those series that's very easy to dismiss because it is super fan servicey and has all these lewd topics. But it's actually quite interesting when they kind of dive into the industry of it and the culture around porn and you know, the forces of creation and struggle behind it. So I don't know, it's probably more interesting than you would assume, but at the same time it has all of the shortfalls that you would assume as well. This is about this girl Tanaka-san who's very cold and standoffish, but then she kind of warms up. What more could you want? Here kind of the joke is that she's not actually that standoffish, but she's just kind of awkward. And a lot of stuff she does is misunderstood as being kind of more abrasive than it is. So that's fun. This is another series by the person who made Okasan, which I praised a whole lot in the previous video and said it's kind of like Yatsuba if you like big boobs. This is about a whole family of people with big boobs and their trials and tribulations living in a very small house all together. It's probably even more fetishy than Okasan, but it never feels like it's being derailed or driven entirely by its fetishes. At the end, it's still just more about this kind of sitcom-y slice of life of all of them trying to figure each other out. There's actually some pretty profound emotional moments. There's a scene where they go visit the grave of the main character's dead father. That actually made me cry a lot. I was surprised at how struck I was by this. And it also takes place in the same universe as Okasan, so that's fun too. They meet Okasan and she visits them sometimes. So I think it's really good. I don't know. I think, again, you kind of have to decide whether or not you can enjoy or tolerate the visual depiction of it, or if that's too off-putting for whatever reason, which is, of course, just the eternal question of manga. But I quite like it. I think it's one thing that I think is really, really well realized in this series. Maybe I can just randomly find a chapter and not subject you to too much fan service, is that it really nicely depicts how crowded their house is. That the backgrounds are so detailed and the layout of the house is so consistent, it's so like explored, that you really understand like how chaotic it is with all of these large women and the hapless husband trying to maneuver around and cram themselves in. Well, you can see what's going on, but I don't know. I think that sort of capturing that sort of feeling in art is really impressive. A feeling of busyness, of well-inhabitedness, of overly lived in, I think is one of the hardest things to realize in like set design or illustration or anything, and this series excels at it. And this is one called Show Me Your Boobies and Look Embarrassed, so we'll just move on from that. This was kind of like an office series, I think. No, it's School Life. I don't remember this one. I don't remember this one at all. Oh, yeah. It's like he's kind of hapless and flusters easily, but he wants to be relied on. He wants to be seen as dependable and cool, and it's just about his attempts to do so. Okay, sure. Here we have a girl that appears to be very cold and standoffish, but eventually kind of warms up. This is one of the great tragedies of this website. It's a spin-off of Sangatsu no Lion. As I previously said, one of my favorite manga series of all times. I gave it the elusive 5 stars, of course. And it's a spin-off involving some of the characters I find most interesting, who are the legendary old men that help run the Shogi Association and are still extremely powerful players in their own right. It's about their scorching days in their youth and their super dramatic shogi playing and the intense lives they've lived. Or at least I assume, because I've only read 2 chapters. But I really, really was enjoying it. It's kind of somewhere between Umino Sensei and Fukumoto Sensei, where it starts getting more into like this gritty psychology of competitive games and like how rambunctious someone has to be to have that kind of insolent, defiant talent. It's looking at an entirely different sort of character than Sangatsu no Lion, while still taking place in that same universe, with the same game, with the same very careful, considerate character portrayal. I want to read more so badly. I'm tempted to give this a star off the strength of the first 2 chapters. And the art style is so cool. It's so like old school, which like really, reflects the fact that it's like a flashback series, but it still has like a lot of the kind of charm and like slice of life, detailed backgrounds and stuff that I really enjoy in the main Sangatsu series. Man, it's so good. And look at this. There's 10 volumes. There's 10 volumes in Japanese. And we've read the first, 5th of one. I gotta know. He has a kid. We get to learn about his family life. I bet on top of all of this crazy Fukumoto psychology, it's eventually going to become a family drama that just squeezes my heart like Umino Sensei always does. Anyways, hopefully someday we'll read more, or I'll get good enough at Japanese to take matters into my own hands. Or, perhaps most realistically, I just start offering huge sums of money to anyone who's willing to scanlate it for me. There's always the money route. Okay, moving on. We'll cover a couple more, and then we're almost at the end of page 3. Oh my god, this is gonna take so long. But I'm having so much fun. I hope you're having fun too. I hope I get a chance to finish doing all of these. It's great. I just love manga so much. Yeah, you know what? Let's not even try to push forward. That's a good series to end on. I'll just reflect a little bit about manga in general, because, earlier this year I came off of my year-plus long manga hiatus. I made a video about this already, and I really feel so glad that I did. I forgot what a joy it is to have this hobby, how wonderful it is to day by day, week by week, see new chapters of series that you love appear, to read them so excitedly, to speculate on what's happening next. True enough, as I predicted, one of the reasons I tried to kind of give up on manga, at least for a bit, is that it was really majorly distracting, and I would find myself transfixed reading volume after volume of a new series instead of doing work or doing chores or anything like that. And that did happen quite a few times in the last year. So that risk always exists, and of course it would have to when the content is just this good. Yeah, I love manga. If I had my way, I would have another self, a duplicate, that would just read manga all day and make reaction videos, which I love doing, and talk about all the wonderful things in every series and how they're so beautifully representative of genres and movements and aspects of society, and how each of them reflects that unique manga spirit lying somewhere between the artisanal and the artistic, where people are paid a pittance to crank out these passion projects week after week, drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. I just love manga so much that it almost hurts. But I'm back. I wish I could make more manga videos, but I'll do what I can. At the very least, we're going to keep reading One Piece. And I really hope that in the next few days, I'll find the hours to record a video discussing all the rest of these. The other 4 pages, plus stuff I've completed, plus I want to dive into Plan to Read, plus all the stuff I'm reading on Viz. And even that doesn't capture all of the world of manga for me. There's so many series that I read as a kid that aren't captured at all in this data, or series that I read on other sites, or there's just so much. It just never ends. But my desire to explore also never ends. That's all for now. Let's look forward to more manga.